Brian, I think we had determined, we had drawn a sketch. We had drawn a sketch of this one. This is the sketch that we had drawn. Now this is the fair copy. So it is from the sketch that you are able to count how many tails, which we did in the previous lesson. We just come up with a sketch, then sasa hiyo ndio inakusaidia kuchora hii the fair copy. Is that okay? So ukimaliza kuandika hizo payoffs, tell me finished so that we proceed. Okay, finished, good. So let's now come here and do the values for EMVs. So we start with, these are the EMVs. We go to number 1. Now, when you go to number 1, I told you, you check the kind of lines going out. And the kind of lines that are going out, they are complete. So if they are complete, what you do, you multiply those probabilities as you add with the payoffs. So that would be 0.7 times 70 plus 0.2 times 40 plus 0.1 times 15, you minus 20, the one getting in there, you minus 20. Then you do the same thing with number 2, where you will say 0.7 multiplied by 40 plus 0.2 multiplied by 30 plus 0.1 multiplied by 25. Now you minus 10. So I would like you to do that on your own all the way to number 8. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do that and set the answers. And be very fast. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. You just multiply those payoffs with the probabilities you had, and then you subtract these costs. Finished. Send your figures. So number one, you should get 38.5. Number two, I have 26.5. Number three, I have 20.5. Number four, I have 18. Number five, I have 17. Number six, I have 18.5. Number seven, I have 20.5. And number eight, I'm getting 16.5. So if you agree with all those figures, Adika agreed, those who are online. If you disagree with any, you will say, you agree? Okay. Those who are online, are you getting such? Yes, Pfizer, I can see agreed. Winfred is also agreed. Yeah, I can say Daniel agrees, Quita. So if we have agreed, we now proceed to number 9. Now, number 9, as you can see, the lines going out are incomplete. And I told you if the lines going out are incomplete, what you do, you select. You select the higher or the highest, depending on how many they are. So number 9, it will be the highest at 1, 2, and 3. The highest at 1, 2, and 3. So the highest there is 38.5. And that 38.5 has been found from number 1. So you come and mark like that. It has been found from number 1. Then 10, it is the higher. It is the higher at 4 and 5. It is the higher at 4 and 5. So 4 and 5, the higher is 18. The higher is 18. Number 11, it is the case of the highest. The highest at 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, and 8. 6, 7, 8. It is 20.5. It's 20.5. Now, when we come to number 12, number 12 will require that we multiply. So you take 0.4, and I've forgotten to mark. This 18 imepatikana kwa number 4. So we need to mark here. And this 20, we have gotten it from number 7. So we mark that way. So I was saying at number 12, it is 0.4 times what we have in number 9, 38.5 plus 0.6 times what we have in number 10. Number 10, we have 18. And then you less this cost. You less this cost here, which is 2. So when you do that, tell me what is the answer. $24.2. Then number 13. Number 13 is a case of selecting the higher. So the higher at 11 and 12. 11 and 12. So that is 24.2. 24.2. And that one has been picked from number 12. Has been picked from number 12. So with that now we can be able to offer our advice. We can be able to offer. Yes, Winfred, I can see your answer. So the advice is like this. You write this. The company should undertake a survey. You are writing that. The company should undertake a survey and if the results are acceptable, a new plant should be built. A new plant should be built. But if not acceptable, the existing plant should be expanded. 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 So I think that is how we are supposed to handle that. And I hope that you have understood. If not, you can raise a concern. And if you are okay, type okay so that now I give you an assignment and we proceed to the next agenda. You okay? Those who are online, if you are okay, say my yes, I'm okay, so that I'm in a position to proceed. Brian, it's okay. Pfizer, okay. We need Eba, Wilfred. Daniel, Winter. So I think we are okay. Now in your past papers, let me see your past paper. There's a question of November 2020. It is a question of November 2020. Yeah, November 2020, question 2A. You will attempt that. November 2020, question 2A. So from there now, we go on to discuss what I gave you the notes for, called game theory. It's called game theory. So we will quickly go through the notes so that we can be able to understand. Now, game theory, it is a decision-making technique that is used in an environment of competition. It is a decision-making technique that is used in an environment of competition. Now, competition is said to exist if there is a conflict of interest. If there is a conflict of interest, that's when we say there is competition. Now, conflict of interest occurs where more than one persons are interested in one item and the item cannot be subdivided so that each of the interested parties will have a small share. That now brings in a situation that we call winner taking it all. And when there is that competition, it can easily become conflict. It can easily become conflicts. And we have witnessed very many conflicts, even among communities, as they conflict for resources among individuals, among institutions, and so on. It is all about competition and conflict of interest. That's why game theory is also otherwise referred to as science of conflict. You can also call it science of conflict. Now, game theory is a little bit different from the other environments in that in the other environments that we have been making decisions about, what you get purely determines or is determined by what you had done. For example, when you sit for an exam, that is an environment of uncertainty. The results that come your way are purely dependent on what you wrote on your paper. They have nothing to do with what your neighbor wrote or did not write. But in a competition, what comes your way depends not only on what you do, but also what your competitor does or did. For example, when you are invited for an interview, the probability of you getting that job depends on how you present yourself, plus how the others present themselves. When you look at something like a football match, the points awarded to the winner depends on how the winner played, plus also how the other team participated. So in competition, it is not only about you, but also about your competitor. Now, there are many, many ways in which game theory is beneficial to an organization, but we have just listed a few there. We have said it can help us in setting prices, It helps us in political strategies. Kama sahi wakati wako na BBI, we are headed to 2022. I know the hopefuls, those people who are vying, they are recruiting very bright people, very experienced people to come up with games, with strategies. Games are about strategies, how to win in a competition. This is when you hear of the rights of Jimmy Wajege, the rights of David D, the rights of Professor Kagwaja, the rights of Abdul Kadir, and so on. Those are people who have a very admirable track record of success. They have either schooled in prestigious schools, they have run businesses successfully, they have run organizations successfully. Those are the guys who are consulted. And there are not many, because game theory, or when it comes to strategies, it is not every mind that can be able to come up with a serious strategy. Actually, if you look at the guy behind game theory, he's called John von Neumann. He's an American. And John von Neumann says there is himself and the rest of the mankind. Because he thinks, or he says, what he understands in game theory, the rest of us, we cannot understand. Now, the other issue that we need to mention is about the assumptions that are made in game theory. One of the very popular assumptions is that there must be a real conflict of interest. A real conflict of interest. You must not work on assumptions. You must not work on emotions or opinions. It must be something that is confirmed. And I know so far in your life, you have ever come across this person and you thought the person had some interest in you. And you started responding appropriately, particularly for men. Maybe you started buying her coffee, you started sending airtime, you started sending flowers and so on. Only later on down the line to be told there is nothing like that. Nothing can work. And if she's kind enough, she tells you, you are not of my type. Now, such kind of scenarios are disappointing. And why they are disappointing, it is because you never confirmed the existence of a real conflict. Not only on the positive side, even on the negative. You may again come across this person and think that this person is against me. This person wants to finish me. And as they say, you say, money has been poured to finish me politically or whatever. And then you start responding. You start preparing for the person. Even unaanza kujiambia na mgoja tu, even you tell your friends, namtega tu hivi. I'm waiting for him to do this. Then italipuka. It will be hell will break loose. Then later on, you realize the fellow had nothing wrong with you. They were not even thinking about you. What they did to you that made you think they had an issue is what they would do and what they did to any other person. So you must not move on assumption, you must confirm. The other thing is that the competitors must be rational. That is also a very, very important assumption that we must make. The competitors must be rational. By rationality, we mean, actually, there is a very popular saying, I don't know whether I put it in your notes, that says, winning is the only thing, but not the only thing, but not the only thing. I don't know whether it is in your note or not. It's a cardinal principle in game theory, that winning is the only thing, but not the only thing. That means no one goes to a game to lose. We all go to a game to win. But winning is not the only thing. There is something else called losing, although we don't keep on mentioning. It's just like in this class. None of you is in this class so that you can fail. You are here so that you pass. So for you, passing is the only what? Thing. It is either I pass or I pass. That's what we say. But passing is not the only thing. There is something else that we don't keep on mentioning. Now, when you appreciate that back in your mind as you participate in a game, you will be in a position to accept results when they come, and more so when they are negative. Otherwise, even in Kiswahili, they say, asiyekubali kushindwa si mshindani. So when you don't accept, you contest the results and you start blaming everyone else except yourself. And you know, like you students, when you differ with the examiner, you start saying, your class name sijui hata wanamaki mitihani namna gani, how my examiners sijui wako namna gani, na usipochunga unasema hata huyo Kimani sijui alitufunza namna gani, na nilikuwa nasema tu. So all those kind of things, you start blaming everyone else except yourself. And if you don't check, you may easily get to a point where you say, it is either I get it or no one gets it. It is either I get it or no one gets it. Now, when you come to that point, we say, you are irrational. You are irrational, and the game moves from, or the situation moves from being a game to being a crime. And I'm sure you have witnessed these things in very, very many instances. Just to put a few. Maybe matters politics. When mtu ya Jubilee, wenzako ni mtu ya NASA. And you're just comparing notes. Ama wewe ni wa BBI, wenzako si wa BBI. Just comparing notes. And as you go by and by, unaona sasa imekuwa matusi. Sasa imetoka kwa BBI, the guy now starts insulting you personally. So that guy has ceased from being rational and has become what? Irrational. And now we are looking at a possibility of a crime. We have seen, and maybe we have seen this, a situation where more than one man are competing for one lady, or more than one ladies are competing for one man. Now, if you happen to be one of the many that are competing for one, and you don't end up the winner, it is required, if you are rational, you congratulate the winner. You wish them well. And if they are going all the way to have a wedding, you assist them in their logistics, you finance them if you can, and you wish them well, then go back to the field, you look for another one. But unfortunately, some people, when they have lost, number one, they start telling bad stories about that person. Naanza kuambia hata huyo msichana unamuona, ninajua hii mambo yake yote. Hata huyo mwanaume unamuona. Then they give you a dossier and you are left wondering, if you knew all these about the person, why were you in the first case even following that person? It is just like the example of the it's just like the example of the Sungura. Catherine, I can see your petition. The Sungura that he said he found some oranges which were ripe and he tried getting them, but because he was too short, he could not. Then he went away saying even those oranges are not ripe. Oranges were ripe. It's only that the guy was too short. Yeah. So people go to the extent of fighting. Even in business, you are doing business with your neighbor there, wanakujua customers wanashindaga wakikuja kwako. Then instead of knowing how to revamp his business to attract more, you find even people going to witchcraft, people sending that, people doing bad things. Now that is being irrational. The other one is that there should be free flow of information. When you are competing with a person, you should have free flow of information. And this is one of the reasons why you find when it comes to Form 1 admissions, there is always a problem. You find the government wanting to favor those who are from public schools compared with those who are from academies. Because it is obvious, those who are from academies had an upper hand in terms of facilities, in terms of environment, compared with those who are from the public. So it is always a debate that even at times it finds itself in the court of law because of this flow of information. The other thing is that game theory, you should only know the strategy of your competitor, and the competitor should know your strategy after both of you have selected your strategies. And I'm sure umewahi this game ya cards. When you're playing the game of cards, once you pick your card from the pack, you don't display it to everyone, but you keep it close to your chest. It is after everyone has selected their cards that now you table or you portray. But unfortunately nowadays, everyone or most of us, especially in the social media platforms, we want to announce our strategies even before we start implementing them. You want to get married, there is this jama, munatembea na yeye, or there is this girl, and it looks like they will materialize into something good. Then, when you are out there, you take it's called what? A selfie. And you tell us, my future husband, my future wife. That is dangerous. You are thinking of buying a car, and some money now are enough. And you are now down there in Syokimau taking an SGR to Mombasa to go for the car. So unajichukua selfie hapo kwa SGR, headed to Mombasa for my brand new car. Those things, my friends, are dangerous. Those things are dangerous. You should appreciate at your level now a very important statement that success attracts enmity. As a focal point. Success attracts enmity. So don't go announcing your success to everyone. Don't go announcing your strategies. Don't go telling the world what you are thinking. They will counter it. Because success attracts enmity. When you get me in another forum, I'll tell you. The only person you can be sure that they are happy with your success is your parents. The rest of us, don't be sure. Let me restart, because that is not the discussion for now. But the issue is, let there not be flow, or rather, the issue of knowing the strategies. Now, from there, we need to discuss quickly the types of games. The types of games. Now, the types of games that are given there, one is we classify games on the basis of persons, whereby we have two persons games. For example, a football match is a two persons game. And when we talk of persons, it does not have to be a singular, an individual. It could be a group, but the group is distinct. Like we have in football match, those are teams. There are more than one individuals on one team or in one team. Or even companies competing, nations competing, and so on. Then we have what we call n-persons game. Now, n-persons game is a game where we have more than two participants. A very good example is how our politicians compete for particular posts. You'll find there are actually more than two participants. That's called classification by participants. The next one is classification according to information. According to the information that is available. Now, in accordance to information, we have two types. Kuna ile inaitwa perfect na kuna ile inaitwa imperfect. Now, perfect is the one that has probabilities of 0, 1, 0, 1. Imperfect is where probabilities are between 0 and 1. They are in decimals. That's what we call imperfect information. The next way of classifying games is in terms of cooperation. Now, cooperation is where the participants are in a position to talk and they have the willingness to talk so that we have a cooperative game. They are in a position to talk and they have the willingness to talk and they agree that no one will do anything that is detrimental to the other one. So as I take my strategy, as you take your strategy, we are mindful of each other. So we only go for a strategy that will be beneficial to all of us. But the opposite of that is called non-cooperative. Non-cooperative is where you don't communicate. You have no willingness or you don't have the ability. And that's the point at which people become faithful to the philosophy of God for us all and everyone for himself. So when you hear people saying God for us all and everyone for himself, those people have become selfish. And those are people who can go to any mile as long as they benefit. They don't care who is suffering. They can do anything. Now that is called non-cooperative and it is dangerous. You should not entertain it. The other one is what we call the sum of the pairs. The sum of the pairs. Now, in regard to the sum of pairs, there are two types of games. One is called zero sum. Now, zero sum is a game where the gain of one person is exactly the loss of the other one. So this one has gained 20, the other one has lost 20. So it is actually the winner taking it all and the loser losing it all. The other one is a non-zero sum. So non-zero, it is where the gain of one person is not exactly the loss. So it's a situation where huyu amechukua kidogo na huyu mwingine kidogo. So we have two variations there. A win-win. That's where all of us, we have won. And that comes in if the games are cooperative. Then we also have what we call the lose-lose. Lose-lose occurs where everyone decides to lose or everyone is losing. And these lose-lose situations, they are manifested or they are manifestation of malice or anger. Someone has lost and they have decided everyone will lose it. And it happens when you had done something as a group and most likely something that was not good. And it was just a secret amongst you. And maybe you had even agreed how you will share the proceeds. But when it is time to share, this person is shortchanged. So the person who is shortchanged, he decides that even you will not enjoy. I'm going to do a maneno. So all of us to sequel. So that kind of a strategy, again, is not very, very good. I think I've discussed all of them. The last one is in terms of the strategies, where we have what we call pure and mixed. Now, for the pure and mixed, I don't want to touch them more because they will be the basis of the question that we are going to have. The next thing that we need to mention is called the convention. It's called the convention. And convention has to do with who gains at what point, or how do we denote the gains and losses. And as you can see the notes, we normally have a matrix that looks like this. Here we have a participant called X and another one called Y there. Now in the conventions, there is a positive sign. Now a positive is a gain to this guy and a loss to this one. And a negative is the opposite. A negative is a loss to X and a gain to Y. I again do not want to dwell there because in every question that we are going to solve, I think I'll be repeating those conventions. Then finally, there is that flow chart that has been given there. It is very, very important that you familiarize yourself with it because it is the one that we shall be using. So that is all. That is all. And I want us now to start dealing with the questions at hand. I think the handout I gave you, did it contain questions? Okay. So question number one. Question number one. Now, if you follow the flow charts, because that's the one that we shall follow. It says you start. The flow chart says you start. And once it says you start, or once you start, the next thing it says is you do what? Your diagram. After you start, you develop a payoff table. Now, in developing a payoff table, there are three things that you need to establish. One, you need to know who are the participants. Number two, you need to know what are the strategies. And number three, you need to know the payoffs. Now, the question number one, which we have nothing to read, it has given us all that information. Question number one, it has two participants. There is player A, rather X and Y, and their strategies. So here we have X, who has strategy X1, X2, and X3. Then we have Y1, we have Y2, we have Y3 and Y4, and this is for participant Y. Participant Y. So huwa inapangwa hivyo. Just copy as it appears. This is 3. This is -1, and this is 4. This is -1, -3, and -7. This is 4. This is -7. This is 3. Then here I have 2, 0, and -9. So those are the three things that you need when dealing with those games. Okay, so I think now we have drawn. If you refer the flow chart, after you have drawn the payoff table, then it raises a question. Is there a saddle point? Make sure you're following those online. It raises a question, is there a saddle point? Now, in answering that, this is how you go about it. You come here, you extract the maximums of the column. The maximum in column Y is 4. Y1. Y2 is -1. Y3 is 4. And here it is 2. So do that. You extract the maximums there. After extracting the maximum, this participant who is on this side uses a strategy called min-max. So write min-max that way. This one is already in your notes. Uses a strategy called min-max. Now min-max means, as we saw the other day, select the minimum of the maximums. So the minimum of the maximums is this one. So you circle that. Then we come to this other side, you extract the minimum. You see here we extracted the max from the columns. Now from the rows, you extract the minimum. So the minimum here is -1. The minimum here is -7. The minimum here is -9. So that side you extract the minimums. Then this guy who is on this side uses a strategy called max-min. The participant on this side uses max-min. So that means he will go for the maximum of the minimums. He will go for the maximum of the minimums, which is this one. The maximum of the minimums. So Sasa, after doing that, you check whether the selections are the same. What you have selected here, is it the same with the other one? Yes. So if they are the same, the game has a saddle point. So you write, the game has a saddle point. A saddle point of -1, hence it is a pure strategy game. It is a pure strategy game. So that game has a saddle point, and the saddle point is -1. Now, by definition, as you will see in the notes, a saddle point is the value that is maximum in the column, in its column, and it is the minimum in its row. That's what we call a saddle point. The value that is the maximum in its column and minimum in its row. So once you have said or you have identified the saddle point, ukirudi back kwa flowchart. Flowchart mahali iliuliza, is there a saddle point? Now our answer is yes. So when you say yes, hiyo arrow inakupeleka stop. Now when you stop, there are several things that you need to highlight, which we will call conclusion. There are several things that you need to highlight in the conclusion. In the conclusion, the first thing, you must tell us who are the participants in that game. Who are the participants in that game? There is X and Y. Those are the two participants. Then you must tell us the strategy that they are going to use. The strategy that they are going to use. As you saw in the notes, or you will see later, where you have found the saddle point, that is the strategy of that participant. So as far as X is concerned, saddle point, you can even come and mark it here. That way. Now, saddle point, it has been found in strategy X1. So him, he will use X1. And then for Y, he will use X2. He will use X2. Then on this side, the next thing is the proportion of time. Proportion of time. Proportion of time. You must tell us the proportion of time that you use. Now, a game is called pure. A game is called pure because the participant will only use one strategy all through. So the proportion of time is 100%, and here it is 100%. All the time he has, he will not use any other strategy. And finally, now you must tell us value. You must tell us value. What is it that we start to get? What is it that we start to get? Now, value, you can see this one is negative. And in the conventions, I've just said that a negative is a loss to X and a gain to Y. So for participant X, he will lose 1, and Y, he will gain 1. Actually, that now is a zero-sum game. So that is how you solve such kind of a game. So I want you to leave a small space that we shall use to do question 2 in the same way. Question 2, we jibu 2 kama hii. So that we solve question number 3 now. Two companies, Nimara Textile Limited and Swat Rails Limited, for years have been competing. Nimara Limited has adopted advertising strategy to increase market share. The following data has been provided. No advertising, medium, heavy for both firms will result in equal market share. Okay, the rest we can read as we saw. Up to that point, how many participants are in that game? There are 2 participants. Good. What do you think are the strategies? Anytime you see a question on game theory, you go back to the flow chart. The flow chart says you start. And when it tells you to start, it then tells you to draw or to develop a payoff table. So the payoff table will be like this. The payoff table will be like this. We have 2 participants here in this game. We have 2 participants in this game. And the participants, they are using 3 strategies. One is no advertisement. So we will call it none. The next one is they can do medium. medium adverts, and the last one they can do heavy. So this one is a player called Nimara. Alice Company Nimara. The second one can also choose to do none or choose to do medium or choose to do heavy. And this is the participant called Swati. So design something like that. And don't squeeze the matrix. So I said earlier, you develop, you identify three things. You must know who are the participants. You must also know what strategies they have. And then from there, you know the payoffs. So design hivyo ndio tutengeneze payoffs. Okay, so we can start now. We are told in information 1 that no advertising, medium advertising and heavy advertising for both firms will result in equal market share. That means if they do the same thing, they will share the market, 50-50. So come here and record 50-50 that way. Here medium, 50-50, and heavy, 50-50. If they do the same thing, they share the market. No one will lose, no one will gain. The next thing is this. Number 2, Nimara Textiles with no advertising, 40% of the market with medium advertising by Swati Rayons, and 28% with heavy advertising by Swati. So that means if Nimara, they do nothing, and Swati goes for medium, then Nimara will get 40%. So when they get 40%, then Swati will get 60. Will get 60. Alafu sasa, if Swati goes for heavy, Nimara will get 28. So Swati ataachiwa what? 72. Ataachiwa 72. Then for Nimara, that's now number 3. Nimara Textiles using medium advertising, 70% of the market with no advertising by Swati, and 45% with heavy advertising by Swati Rayons. That means if Nimara goes for medium and Swati does nothing, Nimara will get 70%. So how wengine watabakishiwa 30. Alafu, if Nimara goes, or rather Swati goes heavy, no, yeah, Swati goes heavy, au atapata 45, so huyu atabakishiwa 55. Then, Nimara, if they go heavy, they will get 75%. Au wengine wakipata 25%. And then, here they will get 52.5. That means huyu atapata 47.5. $47.5. Now, this one is unlike the other one we have solved. He where's the extract at the maximum and minimum. So this one goes for reasoning. And this is how you reason. In a game, when you are competing with a person, you can only know what they can do, but you don't know what they will do. Ndio unasikiaga watu wakianza kugombana, wanaulizana kwani utabu? What will you do? When you hear someone asking you utafanya nini, it means they already know all what you can do. Na hiyo yote hawaogopi. But unless now you tell them kuna kitu kingine unaweza fanya yenye hawajui, then ukishawaambia waamue kama wataogopa ama bado hawataogopa. So in a game, you know what your competitor can do, but you do not know what they will do. So you have to assume, and the assumption goes like this. As Nimara knows that Swati can do none, medium, or if. So assume Nimara wameamua ni none. Sorry, is the other way around. Assume Swati sasa ameamua ataenda kwa none. Because tumesema Nimara anajua Swati can go none, medium, or even. Swati can go that. But Nimara hajui exactly Swati atachukua gani kati ya hizo tatu. So assume sasa Swati ameamua kuenda none. So you as the competitor, what options do you have? You can also go none, upate what? 50. Ama uende medium, upate 70. Ama uende heavy, upate what? 75. So which one is better? Heavy. Sasa assume Swati ameamua yeye anaenda medium. Akishaamua ni medium, na wewe uamue none upate 40. Ama uende medium upate 50. Ama uende heavy upate 52. So which one is best? Heavy. Finally, assume Swati ameamua yeye anaenda heavy. Na wewe unaweza amua uende none upate 28. Medium upate 45. Heavy upate what? 50. So which one is best? Heavy. So what you can see there is, irrespective of what Swati will do, it is best for Nimara to go heavy. So what are your points? Irrespective of the strategy taken by Swati, it is best for Nimara to take heavy. It is best for Nimara to take heavy. Sasa let's argue now for the side of this other one. Ikifika side ya Swati, Swati knows what Nimara can do. That Nimara can go none, or medium, or even. But Swati does not know what finally Nimara will do. So Swati now can only assume. So let's assume that Nimara ameamua ni nani. So Swati anaweza kibia nani apate 50. Akibia medium 60. Akibia heavy 72. So which one is best for him? Heavy. Assume Nimara ameamua ni medium. Swati can go none apate 30. Hapa medium 50. Heavy 55. So it's best for heavy. Finally, if Nimara ameamua heavy, Swati can go now to get 25. Medium 47. Heavy 50. So it is best for Nimara for Swati to go which one? Heavy. So let's write that point again. Irrespective of the strategy taken by Nimara, irrespective of the strategy taken by Nimara, it is best for Swati. It is best for Swati to take heavy. It is best for Swati to take heavy. Okay, then down there, right? The two companies will therefore meet at 50-50. The two companies will therefore meet at 50-50. At that point, I want to comment and say this. In business and in social life, if your competitor comes out strong, you should also come out strong. Don't sit back and hope that they will fail. Hope is not a strategy. Mtu akikutukana matusi moja kama inapimangwa na wewe unamtusi mbili. Ukichapwa kofi moja unachapa kofi mbili. That's the rule. And this rule is played out so well by politicians. Can you look at the two sides? When one side calls for a press conference and they accuse this other side at the wameiba wamefanya nini, this other one immediately they also call for a press conference. Na wao wanasema hawa waliiba hii wamefanya hii na hii. Then wanaendelea kurushiana maneno, then you hear them telling each other, mkiendelea we will spill more beans. Then your story inakuja imeisha because wanaona kila mtu sasa ameanza kusema. Then inatulia. But if you keep quiet and start hoping, you'll see dust. Remember they say, when a lie is told over and over again, it looks like it's a truth. So you must come out and defend yourself. If you remember what was happening in 2017 wakati wa campaigns, Jubilee wakikuwa na mkutano Kasarani, ODM ama NASA wako Uhuru Park kama Nyayo Stadium kama Mombasa. The same day, the same time. To a point that our TV networks, they were showing us the two meetings half screen. You remember? Half screen. Now, the reason as to why it is done half screen is to ensure we all remain 50-50. Because ikionyeshwa half screen, na mimi ni wa Jubilee. I'm not saying ni wa Jubilee. Because this is not a political class. When I'm watching the side ya NASA, ninaona venye NASA mkutano yao haina watu, venye hao watu wanaongea hakuna kitu wanasema, how their meeting is a failure. So I will not see anything good. Equally, kama mimi ni mtu wa NASA, again I'm not saying ni wa NASA, nikiangalia hizo mbili, nitakuwa naona mkutano ya Jubilee, venye haina watu, venye they are talking nonsense, all those kind of things. And at the end of the day, I will still remain where I was before the meeting began. But if, for example, it is the Jubilee that is having the meeting and NASA are quiet, and all the screens zinaonyesha Jubilee, then even the NASA guys, they will be watching. And there is a possibility that they may hear a point that is interesting and they say, wait a minute, these guys seem to have what? A point. And by, they will be convinced. And at the end of the meeting, mimi hata nimehama NASA. Niko sasa Jubilee. So you start losing. So as a competitor, when they come out fighting, you also come out fighting. Otherwise, you lose it. Otherwise, you lose it. And that is the rule in business. That's why later on, or maybe quite often you hear people say it is business, nothing personal. Unanigonga na kugonga. Business, nothing what? Personal. Yeah. Yeah. Me Ajib. In the government in power, so I sit on the fence of 50-50. Whoever wins, we are together. I find strategically for both. I can see. Yeah, you must be smart. You must not declare your position. You see, like now in the class like this one, with me, I'm also taking a position like that. Because that's hapa, nyinyi nyote, najua kuna mashabiki wa NASA, kuna mashabiki wa Jubilee. Na nyinyi nyote ni wanafunzi wangu. So siwezi anza kusema mimi ni wa Jubilee ama NASA. I will also fight strategically, kama we lead. That's what you do. But kama nishaamua nimetengeneza huko nje nimeenda siasa, now there you do what? Yeah, that's what. It is only in the region. It's only in the region, or the rule in the region is a bit different. Like for those of us who are in Christian religion, we are told, ukichapwa kofi moja hii, unapeana hii side nyingine, unachapwa nyingine. That is in the region. But in business, ni tofauti. Wewe unasemanga hivyo, ukichapa moja unachapa nyingine, unapeana of equal measure. Oh, unachapa of equal measure. Yes. So it is like the Moses law that says tooth for tooth. Yes. Mtu aking'oa jino na wewe unang'oa moja. Yes. Okay. So yes. Okay. Okay. So that is equal measure. Wetu tunaambiwa ukichapwa hii unapeana hii. Akikunyang'anya koti hata shati unampea. That is in religion, but in business it is not equal measure. You go a higher level. Yeah, you go a higher level. Chapa 20% unagonga 40. Okay. Alternatively, andika down there. Alternatively, chora hii matrix. We have Nimara here. Nimara, we have none. We have medium. And we have heavy. Here we have none. We have medium. And we have heavy. This is SWAT. Okay, right? Okay, so I want us now to look at it in another way. And we define it now from the perspective of demand. You have to say whether it's a gain or a loss. Now, the game starts at equal level. So now that athletics, those athletes, they start at the same level. So kila mtu anaanza at the same level. Then sasa mkianza kutembea ndio tofauti inaonekana. So same level ni 50-50. So hii 50-50, Nimara will have 0 here, 0 here, and 0 here. Because akianzia 50 na amalizie 50, he has gained nothing or lost nothing. So 0, 0, 0. But here he has gained 20. Sindio? Nimara amepata 20. So andika 20 hapa. Na hapa amepata 25. Lakini hapa he has lost 10. It's a minus 10. Here he has gained 2.5. He has gained 2.5. Here he has lost 22. He has lost 22. And here he has lost 5. He has lost 5. So sasa tuanze hiyo maneno tulifanya kwa ya kwanza. Nilikwambia hapa unachukua maximum. So max in the column of none ni 25. Hapa ni 2.5. Hapa ni 0. Alafu sasa hapa chini andika nisema inaitwa minimax. Andika minimax. So minimax, it means you will go for the minimum of these maximums. And the minimum of those maximums will be. That's the minimum of those maximums. Alafu sasa, on this side, we get the minimums. We extract the minimums. So the minimum is minus 22 here. This is minus 5 and this is 0. Na nikakwambia huyu naye anatumia strategy inaitwa max min. Anatumia strategy inaitwa max min. So max min, he will go for the maximum of the minimums. So the maximum of the minimums is that one. And therefore, since the selections are the same, the game has a saddle point. So utamalizia hapo, like we did with the other one, so that we can solve the next question and then go home. For those who are at home now can go to sleep. Okay, then we can call it a day at that junction. Because now your time in the back maybe we may not finish. Yeah, let's pick up from there in the next lesson, God willing. Thank you so much.